Manchester United are out of the Champions League. An absolutely abysmal performance at home against Seville sees Manchester United lose 2-1 on the night. Atrocious performance. Jose Mourinho got the lineup for me wrong. I was worried from the off seeing Marouane Fellaini starting in midfield. I just did not understand why the fuck he was starting in midfield. And from the off, Manchester United were absolutely atrocious in this game. And if you're not on the ball in Europe in any sort of game against any sort of opposition, you're going to get knocked out. You cannot perform poorly in the Champions League. You can get away with it sometimes against lesser opposition, as we have done. We started off poorly in the first half against Crystal Palace, but managed to come back against poorer opposition. But you can't do that against better opposition. And Manchester United have been made to pay over these two legs. Been really, really poor, and deservedly we're out for me. And you know, Manchester United were never going to, for me, win the Champions League this year. It would have been an absolute massive shock if Manchester United had got to even the semi-final or something. But it's just disappointing that Manchester United, when they've been at home in this second leg, I was struggling to think that whether Manchester United would comfortably get through this tie. I thought Manchester United might just scrape through over the two legs. But a lot of people confident that Manchester United would get through these two legs with ease. But I wasn't so sure that we would. I was hoping that we would, but I had my doubts and thought that Manchester United might just scrape through. And in the end, we haven't even scraped through. We've got knocked out. And to be honest, that is disappointing for Manchester United, because we've now only got the FA Cup left to play for this season, and still with difficult teams left in it, this season could end up becoming a disaster for me. Only finishing second in the league for me will be a disaster season for me, because not winning any silverware at all isn't good enough for Manchester United. Manchester United have to be winning silverware every season, or most seasons for me. And with the amount of money we spent in the summer and the optimism around Old Trafford at the start of the season, would be real kick in the nuts if we're not to win anything this season. Now, there were some really poor performances out there again today. Obviously, I was signalling out Marouane Fellaini for even starting. He shouldn't have been starting. So, but I mean, I'm not blaming the likes of Ashley Young and Antonio Valencia. They've done decent jobs in games for Manchester United, and it's not their fault that Manchester United have got knocked out this evening. But to be honest, we shouldn't be really starting 33, 32-year-olds that were converted wingers into fullbacks in big Champions League games. Just shouldn't really be happening. It certainly shouldn't be going into next season. I know both of them have done decent jobs for Manchester United, but you look at what, okay, everyone's talking about how much Pep Guardiola has spent at Manchester City, but he went out, okay, Mendy is injured for Manchester City and got a bad injury, but he went out and brought Mendy and he brought Walker to replace the old guard there at Manchester City. That isn't the only key factor in Manchester City improving. They've obviously spent in other areas, but that is one area where Manchester United have got to sort out the fullbacks going into next season. Okay, that wouldn't necessarily have been the sole reason of this particular game. We've got to do that. Obviously, the midfield has got to be sorted out. If Paul Pogba was good enough to be on the substitutes bench, okay, come on and did misplace a few passes, which was poor. But really, he should have been starting ahead of Marouane Fellaini, and so should Scott McTominay. Really, that's got to go down as Jose Mourinho's fault. If you're good enough to be on the substitutes bench, you're good enough to start for me. And okay, he's put Martial on the bench. I can understand that with Marcus Rashford performing well over the weekend, but Marcus Rashford's still young and very inexperienced in these bigger Champions League ties. But Sanchez again was not on it again really enough. When are we going to see the best of Alexis Sanchez for Manchester United? Hopefully we will soon, but the season is petering out now. We've only got that FA Cup left. Probably Eric Bailly was probably Manchester United's best player on the night, which is dreadful to think that centre half was Manchester United's best player. It is disappointing the manner in which Manchester United have gone out in this tie. Considering we got the draw away from home in Seville, you would have thought that Manchester United at home could get a result. Obviously, I was worried going into this second leg with the fact that obviously a 1-1 or a 2-2 or something could knock Manchester United out. But the fact that we've actually gone out and lost this game at home is the kick in the nuts. But we're going to have to pick ourselves up. Hopefully Manchester United are obviously home and dry in the race for the top four, so we will at least be back in it next season. But we've got to go out there and win the FA Cup to salvage something from the season now. Otherwise it's going to peter out into a disappointing campaign for me. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll talk to you all again soon.